Legacy should be used as an asset, but that's not your only asset. You have to give it muscles with things which are happening currently.
There's never been a greater opportunity right now than ever. You have direct access to your audience when it's about how can you stay relevant.
So legacy is the platform which has been built for you, but if you just use it as a platform and not add new things to it and turn it into a springboard.
You have a great piece of content, put it out organically. Once you see it do well organically, look at the analytics. That's what I did. I put it out organically, saw what was the best piece of content that did well, took that one, put a call to action in it, made it powerful.
You cannot just sit on legacy. You have to take it forward and make it relevant to the current world, whether it's the way you talk about it or whether it's from the product perspective as well.
Now, as an ad, people see it and they get hooked because it's entertaining. You can't even tell it's an advertisement. You can just see, wow, value. And now people want that value.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Things Marketing with Meraj and Sujira. I'm Meraj. I'm a brand consultant and a marketing consultant with experiences across Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. I've been doing so for 20 plus years, worked with some of the best brands in the world, Unilever, Reckitt, DIFC, Reliance, and so on and so forth. Over to you, Sujira.
Thanks, guys. My name is Sujira Rabasha. I'm the CEO of ETS Rabasha Media, where we are a marketing company breathing life to people who have a vision and want to be able to get that out to so many people. Having played football as a professional athlete into the business world and doing many ventures here in business, primarily around marketing and helping people express their greatest potential and express their great themselves in what they're doing. So really welcome to be back with you, Maraj. And for those of you guys who joined us last month, it's great to have you back. And for those of you who are now joining, at a very interesting point where we are. Meraj, you want to tell them a little bit about what we're doing at the moment?
Right. Excellent. So thanks for your intro, Sujira. Very fascinating. Sujira has been an ex-footballer, and I think that gives him that energy and drives him towards doing many things that he does. So while the first season, what we did, I mean, this is the first season, first episode, those who were there, we kicked off with the whole idea of family business and how family businesses over, two generations or three generations, and what are the challenges they deal with, how do they want to make it contemporary, and so on and so forth. And that is going to be the theme for the first season of All Things Marketing by Miraj and Sujira. But this episode, of course, we'll touch upon what we did last time for those who were not here last time. And we'll just do a quick recap. But this episode is largely dedicated to what is All Things Marketing all about? Why are we doing it? Who are we doing it for? What's the idea? I mean, there are so many podcasts and webinars and things going on across the world. What makes us different and why have we started on it? Of course, first things was the mutual passion for the whole thing, but we will come back to that after a quick recap of what we did last month. And of course, this is going to be a regular series spread over each month, and we'll take different topics and we'll come to that at a certain point later in the webinar. But yeah, Sujira, you want to touch on what we did last time, which was a fascinating conversation with the leader of Ajanta Shoes, which is a leading Indian footwear brand. He's the third generation leader. And a quick recap from your side, perhaps, on what all we discussed.
Marketing is all about storytelling. Dad, when we first started this business, what did you say to me?
I said, yes, we do a podcast.
Why?
Because I want to tell our story.
Why?
Because I know the story builds a legacy.
Builds a legacy. And that is exactly what we do here at ETS Rabasha Media. We market your story on social media so you could build a legacy for those who come after you, to build your business and your personal brand.
Yeah, follow us on our platform. Go on our website, etsrabashamedia.com.
This is about legacy, and it is about showing up on social media every single day, because if you don't show up, your competition will. Yeah, so guys, last month, we kicked it off with a theme that's very relevant, right? Like I always say, you look outside, go outside and see all these big brands, all these big companies. Those are family names, right? The Walmart, you see Chase Bank, right? Like all these are family names.
JP Morgan.
Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley, exactly. Yeah,
these are all family names, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you go,
and,
yeah.
And it is quite powerful. Like you mentioned, we had Sagnik on the show last time. And so, it was really like, that's the theme that we're having at the moment. And that's why it was really powerful, because we have someone like Meraj who's had the experience that you've had, with the brands that you've worked with, being able to also use psychology and what people wanting. And also my experience also creating a business with my family. That's why this was also interesting to me.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm also just personally, I look up to those big names and say, okay, how can we do that with this family? So it's really about how do those families transition, because a lot of people are still stuck in their ways. They're still doing things of the old. They don't know how to transition, from where it was to what's happening now and what's making things relevant now. And we thought we would be a solution to that. So kicking off, Meraj, I wanted to ask you, just to start off this series, how do families transition from, what worked well in the past, and
Right.
having, the old audience and the old customers who, are dying. Sorry to
Right.
say, that sounds harsh, to now the new generation who are coming up. How do
Right.
you see space and this idea that we've brought together?
Right. Right. So interesting. And I will also touch upon what our friend Shagnik said a few things last time. But I have, as you mentioned, I've been working regularly and extensively with family run businesses, second generation, third generation, so on and so forth, including Shagnik. And there are various aspects that they get their curveballs, whether it's the third generation or the second generation. One is, of course, how to keep things relevant for today and keeping the legacy also alive. And that is something which is the biggest challenge from the business and from the overall macro perspective. We will obviously, Sujira, you and I, we have plans to get more of such leaders from the second and the third generations, and we'll get down to the topics of the brand and the digital world and so on and so forth. But what I've seen is legacy should be used as an asset, but that's not your only asset. You have to give it muscles with things which are happening currently. So legacy is the platform which has been built for you, but if you just use it as a platform and not add new things to it and turn it into a springboard, for example, in the case of Shagnik, they had the legacy of a flip flop, which they've invented largely in India. But Shagnik, being the new generation, he's trying to evolve into sneakers and dancing shoes and smart shoes and so on and so forth. So he's going in the right direction. So you cannot just sit on legacy. You have to take it forward and make it relevant to the current world, whether it's the way you talk about it or whether it's from the product perspective as well. So that's one big learning from the conversation that I've been having with my clients and even what we had last time. The other thing is new things. The biggest resistance, I mean, internal alignment is one of the most critical things, because it's a family run show. And when a family run show, emotions also run deep and hard, and things that the father must have developed or grandfather must have developed. And they may be having a different point of view from the current generation. And it's always, generation gap is a universal thing. It has been around since human beings have been on this planet. So that internal alignment is another very, very critical aspect. And that's why the new generation has to be a very dynamic leader. And that dynamic leader has to prove himself or herself. That is the third aspect. You cannot just get the business because you're born in a certain family and then think that I will handle things and make things happen. Because the employees that you have, or the ecosystem that you have of people around you, they've been there for the last 20 years, 15 years, maybe working with the dad or so on. So you are under a scanner all the time. And that's what Shagnik also mentioned, that anything new I bring in, it becomes something like, whether this will work, whether it's not going to work. Father said, so you have to prove your leadership. You have to prove that you can, build it, take it beyond the X that has been reached by your dad. And that's the other, very, very interesting thing that we got. And perhaps you can touch upon the other couple of aspects that we discussed with Shagnik and that came out.
And just to add on what you were saying, I think one of the biggest resistance is change. And usually that's often internal, right? Like, to be able to, you're so used to doing something over and over again. But it's like, how do we change? Okay, what do we mean by that? Well, that could be the old ways of doing things. That could be like, okay, we want to market our product. We've been a family business and maybe we've been used to doing billboards, right? Like we've been used to, over the family generations, we've been
Right,
posting advertisements on billboards, and that's been working. But
right,
hey, as
right,
time goes on, are we going to go and spend the money and the budget that we have on a billboard? But where are people on? Now people are on their phones, even if from the old generation to the young generation. So how can we
Right.
transition from how we used to do things to now what's happening, what's being relevant, what is the mediums that people are consuming, where do our customers spend most of our time? So that sometimes is a little bit of an issue, with the struggles that these family businesses
Yeah.
who are now
Yeah.
moving is now for the new generation to understand where attention is
Yeah.
and how to be
Yeah.
able to capture that attention.
Right. Right. The other critical thing that I've been observing, and this also briefly came out in our conversation, and I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time into it, and I think in the next couple of episodes we should do it. See, businesses which were built 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they did not do the fundamental solid brand thinking. Those times, a logo and a tagline was the brand, right? Because the thinking was not really evolved 60, 50 years ago. Today, you need to have a complete brand strategy before going out in the market. Who are you? Why are you here for? What's your vision, mission? What's your story? What's your positioning? What are your values? How do you communicate? Do you communicate like a Virgin, which is a rebel brand, or do you communicate like an IBM, which is a high-end almighty brand? Or do you communicate like Swatch, or do you communicate like Omega? Who are you? What's your personality? What are your color codes? All of those things need to be thought in a very, very strategic way before entering the market. And many of these legacy brands which I work with, 2 or 3 of them which I've recently worked with, that was missing completely. So the first things first, I said to the owner, hey, what's your brand about? So in one of the cases, they said quality. I said, quality is a hygiene factor, my friend. I mean, why are you in the market if you're not selling quality product? Because 60 years ago, quality was relevant because nobody had come in that quality zone or the market. So then I build the entire brand strategy. So that is something which is very critical that I end up doing with, the businesses. And of course, over a period of 60 years, 30 years, 50 years, a lot of products come into being because there are so many years behind them. So a lot of products, a lot of experimentation. So what the new generation, I think, needs to do, or the third, letting go of a lot of things. Too many SKUs, for example. Why? Go ahead with 5 or 6 star products which are doing the business and those things. So letting go, innovation. So, I mean, net, I think the simple way that I think we saw it, generation 1 builds it, generation 2 scales it, and generation 3 just kind of reinterprets it and takes it to the global level or the national level. That's how I think the trajectory of a family business has been. And if we come to the 4th generation, then of course we've been talking about Morgan Stanley and all of that. So they've taken it to the global level, and there is a complete brand which is nobody even sits down and thinks, oh, it was started by a family or a person, right? So yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to ask you, like, how do you think, as the companies get bigger and bigger and bigger, more bureaucracy comes to take place, so they don't move as fast and as agile as they did before? And that's the advantages when you have a smaller business. When you have a smaller
Right.
business, even you're doing large revenue numbers, you're still able to make adjustments quicker than the big corporate companies. Corporate
Sure.
companies take long
Sure.
and has to go through a bureaucracy process. So how does a family company that is maybe even going to that corporate level, but still can still
Yeah.
maintain their
Yeah.
innovation and maintain that agileness to see what the market's doing and adapt quickly? Because if you don't adapt, you die.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a brilliant question, Sujira, and this is something which I have faced with my clients in like live examples. So my answer is threefold to it. One is put processes and systems in place, right? Something which when you start small, you're interested in just the returns on investment of whatever product you're making. Processes and systems take a back seat. But once you start growing from, let's say, 20% to 60 to 80 to 100 to 200, processes are become very important, which means standard operating procedure. If this is the department, what will be the process? How will this department communicate to the other departments? So whether it's supply chain management will deal, how will it deal with the products department, and how will the product department deal with the sales department? So there needs to be complete protocol. So that's system and procedure. Second aspect is get the right people who have when you start off, you start as a family, but when you start growing, get the people who are professionals, get them from business schools, good business schools who have studied the mathematics and science of business, right? And they come with a structured thinking. So they bring in the processes themselves, which again boils down to the process. And the third aspect is today's world, a lot of tools are there. The best CRM tools are there. The best AI tools are there now to keep everything in process, right? The best finance tools are there, like a Tally or something. These things were missing 30 years ago. So keeping track of things in a very systematic way is not a problem if you have the right tools in front of you, if you have the right people in front of you, and if you have the right processes and systems in front of you.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's quite powerful. And I'd just love to add on the marketing side of things. I think, as we know, there's never been a greater opportunity right now than ever. You have direct access to your audience, and it's about how can you stay relevant? How can you, not just seem like, like the old back in the days where it's an ad. Now people can tell it's an ad. For me, the
Yep.
best advertisements, the best pieces of content is when people don't even notice it's an ad. I've been running an ad right now. At the moment, something we're doing in our company is we're helping, people invest in real estate in Kenya through Airbnb and things like this. And the responses on Facebook is enormous. Like, there's never been better time to be advertising right now on these social platforms, right? And it's the platforms have optimized it as the content is king, right? If you make great content, you're going to stand out. You put it out organically, and then it's going to now, now you run an ad on it. Well, what are your thoughts on that? As I said, I think, for a family business, when we talk about solutions, one solution, I would say, and you would know all about this, is you run an ad, you have a great piece of content organically, see how it does in with your audience, see if it's relevant, see if it sticks. If that does well organically, then that's when you can now run that as an ad. Absolutely. Your audience has been able to do that. So that's what I would just say before I pass it on to Meraj is, you have a great piece of content, put it out organically. Once you see it do well organically, look at the analytics. That's what I did. I put it out organically, saw what was the best piece of content that did well, took that one, put a call to action under there, made it powerful. And then now as an ad, people see it and they get hooked because it's entertaining. You can't even tell it's an advertisement. You can just see, wow, value. And now people want that value. So that's a bit of a marketing tip I would give for these, family businesses. Where would you come in on that around?
No, that's absolutely correct. And that's a nice segue that you have given to the entire today's episode that, and we'll take the subject at length and detail when it comes to that particular part of the season, which we want to do with how, these things work, how content works in today's world. But yeah, absolutely correct. And why I said it's a nice segue, because now we can come to the whole idea of why we are doing this. I mean, you and I talking across the seas, across the oceans, sitting in different parts of the world, getting people from different parts of the world, like the way we got our first guest who's dealing with how to expand, how to make the brand relevant in the current generation, third generation. We have many more guests which are lined up for this particular, episode or the season, which is about the family bit. But why are we here? Marketing today is everywhere, but the clarity is missing. There's so much. Gone are the days when there's just one television channel, one radio channel, and one newspaper, and a few billboards. Those days were simple for a marketing person. Great idea, put it across 3-4 platforms. No measurement, just wait for the magic to happen. Let's see if the TV works, maybe the advert works, and the product will sell. But today, like 1,000 platforms, 1,000 ways to measure the response on the platform. So there's so much happening, and the clarity is sort of missing. So there are content frameworks, as I said, there are reels, there are influencers, and almost no place where you see how marketing actually plays out in real businesses. People come and talk about, this is work, this is how it worked, this is what, but getting the right people to talk about, practitioners who are there, who are talking about stuff, talking about their challenges and so on and so forth. And which is why we thought this platform is much, much needed for the world to see and perhaps simplify. People think it's very complex, the world of marketing today, because of this, plethora of platforms, because of all the different KPIs and all the ROAS and all the technical jargons thrown in, and CAC and turnaround time, TAT, and so on and so forth. Our idea, I think, Sujira and I, when we started talking, it was like, let's get down to the brass tacks. Let's start talking about each and every aspect of marketing and take it through. And that's where this whole idea of all things marketing started between us. And today we are talking about why it's here, who is it for, what are we going to do, and what can one expect, and what is the long-term vision that we are here for. Yeah. You want to add to that, Sujira?
Yeah, I'd like to add with a question because we've been, getting questions from our audiences also through this webinar, and in regards to marketing. So one of the questions we have, Meraj, is when it comes to marketing, let's say from these family businesses, what do you think B2B and we'll talk about, because I think there's a powerful one on B2C. What do you think has a quicker sales cycle? But a little bit of a caveat here we've had for if it's high ticket, if it's, let's say, 4 grand and above, we're not talking about a shoe, or we're not talking about, an e-commerce, which is different. And that's different topics we can get into. What do you think has a quicker sales cycle when it comes to B2B or B2C when the ticket prices range from, let's say, 4 grand and above, let's say high ticket sales?
Look, B2B, I mean, it's an interesting question. And once again, we can deep dive into it in our subsequent episodes. But a quick answer is B2C always results in quicker turnaround than B2B. B2B and largely the ticket size of B2B in any of the B2B businesses are always higher on the higher side. That's the way both the businesses work. And hence the B2B transaction or transition from a pitch to the sales to the money in the bank is always, the journey is longer, whereas a B2C journey is always a shorter journey. And hence, you need a different kind of marketing effort for a B2C vis-a-vis a B2B. A B2C is always on top of the mind when you're at the shop or when you're on the online. You remember something, you see something, okay, 4K, not a big hole in my pocket, let me try it out. It works like that. I mean, I'm saying 4K in the Indian context today is not that much of a money which 4K US dollar would be, but I'm saying that's how B2C works. But B2B largely would be, I mean, there are high ticket B2C items as well, which is like a car or which is like an apartment, right? That NP customer. Again, the gestation period is very long, and the decision process is very long. You go through all the cars in that budget. Volvo gives something, Mercedes gives something, Audi gives something, and so on and so forth. And if you're all about family safety, you go for Volvo because that's what they talk about. If you're into German precision engineering, you'll go into Mercedes. And if you're into arrogant driving, then you'll go for a Beamer, and so on and so forth, right? So that's how the decision. But, I want to bring this conversation back to why we are doing this. And, we can take all these conversations at a later episode, which we have planned all of that. I think the 4 or 5 things that I think, and you can perhaps absolutely add to it, is that we want to create a live, engaging learning space. It's not just about, you and me talking intellectually about marketing. And hence, having a guest becomes a very important part of it. Real case studies with real people, which I can throw in with my examples, as you just talked about the Kenya example, or I just talked about the Shagnik example, or through the Ajanta shoes. Because intellectual conversation can just become like classroom sessions. We don't want classroom sessions. We want sessions which are practical, which can make people think, okay, problems can be solved in this way. And that brings me to the other aspect, that we want to solve real world problems. Going forward, I think you and I, we have had this conversation that, people should come, that, hey, Miraj, hey, Sujira, this is what we are facing. How do we solve it? And we invite the guests and say that, okay, talk about your problem. Probably this will be a brainstorming session and we'll come up with a solution, right? And that's why, and those who are listening will also get enriched, right? So, and then finally, we thought it'll be a credible, high value platform because of the expertise that you get in with your execution and with your expanse across the other side of the market and the world, and the expertise that I bring in with my marketing and, strategic thinking, this side of the world. Together we can produce this thinking plus execution plus this kind of a platform, which is also enriching for anybody from CEOs to founders to marketing heads to the students who are studying marketing or who have just come into the field of marketing. And so that's how this whole conversation, that's the why, or that's the what I call as the vision of this particular piece, so to say, and reason for existence of all things marketing by Miraj and Sujira. You want to touch upon the what of it? What are we going to do and how are we going to take it forward, Sujira, so that, those who are listening can also expect what they are expecting from this?
Yeah, so, we want this, and I like the way you touched upon, but to be a living, breathing conversation, not just a lecture. So, like being able to bring in business owners, founders, marketing leaders, and really unpack what's actually happening around the scenes, you know? So I think it's quite
Absolutely.
you know, when you talk about that, like we're here to be able to say, how can we provide a solution? How can we bring on these people like you've just mentioned? And being able to do that through these live conversations, which I think is quite powerful.
Absolutely. So, I mean, right now we are season one. We'll be taking different aspects of family business, but season two would be about brand positioning and how it's important. Like I quickly touched upon the brand strategy and positioning and how, let's say, Nike, differentiated itself from all the other sneakers in the world and what they did. And it's also, it's completely a game of brand positioning and how you position yourself in the market. Maybe the next season would be about digital versus performance versus brand building, which is one of our favorite subjects, which we keep talking about every time, Sujira, you and I. What is more important? I mean, performance results in immediate business, but brand building and storytelling builds the brand for the next 10 years, right? So how do you balance these two things? And we'll take the live examples, we'll take the guests who are doing it from the advertising side or from the brand building side or from the performance side, and they will give their stories and so on and so forth. So we want this to be a very, very enriching session for anybody who comes to it. And we want people to come and participate in it. We are open and happy if you're a marketing practitioner, if you're a marketing teacher, if you're a student, if you're studying marketing, and this is for all the audience who are listening to it or who will listen to this later, please feel free to type in the LinkedIn space where this whole thing is, where you would have seen please type in the subjects that you would want us to cover. If you want to be a guest participant, happy to have you guys as guests. I mean, if you have a business problem, happy to take that up. We can brainstorm, we can come up with solutions and so on and so forth. Right, Sujira? I mean, you want to add something to that? We want to make it something, as you said, living, breathing entity, which is enriching for people and which gives them some solutions and not just intellectual conversation.
Yes, definitely. Being able to just be that, you know, a safe space, you know, a place people can come in and learn and have these type of conversations, whether, you know, you're a student and things like that. Miraj, let me ask you, what do you feel the long-term vision is?
Look, and I think we've had some I feel this has the potential to become the way we would like to make it is that it's, as you said, safe space is a very good way to put it. More importantly, it's also a space wherein whoever is facing anything in the world of marketing, branding, communication, advertising, a challenge, a story that they have to share, something which will, as I said, which will be insightful to those who are practitioners in the field of marketing. It becomes one-stop solution provider as well as insight provider in the long term. That's the way I see it. And you can be in any part of the world. Today, because of the World Wide Web and because of AI, the world is operating pretty much in the same way. Of course, there'll be cultural nuances that Indian clothing would be different from, let's say a Western clothing. But today, even Indians wear all the Western clothes. An African nuance of the culture from the color coding would be perhaps different, or an Arab color coding would be. But more or less, people have become homogeneous across the world. So we invite people from all across the world facing challenges across B2B, across B2 consumer business. I mean, look, I have experiences in consumer business, which is FMCG, Unilever, Reckitt, P&G, then telecom, then automobile, things like that. Come with your insights, come with your challenges, come with your solutions, and we'll have a conversation which will be, in a way, be able to take you home. You can take away some solution, some kind of direction towards making your world a little easier, better, interesting from the entire big marketing perspective. And the other vision is to demystify marketing. I mean, people think it's a very complex world. It is, but it can be demystified. I mean, the interesting thing is Sujira belongs to, he's much younger than I am. I mean, I belong to the world when brand building comes in the first, but then, of course, today it's a balance. So we bring in that balance to make things happen in a certain way. Yeah. What do you think should be the vision? I mean, let's have this. Been having this conversation. I mean, are we aligned? And let's have an open conversation on this.
Yeah, like, you know, over time, you know, from a conversational platform, we want this to evolve into something more, a place where problems come in, where conversations shape solutions, and eventually, even structured offerings emerge, meaning us being able to have that consultancy even in person, right? So companies will come and fly us out, and we'll also get content out of it. Companies come fly us out, and we do two things at once. Not only do we provide solutions, but we help them marketing, because look what we're doing right now. We're marketing.
Exactly.
So when you're coming to get these solutions, things that are actually going to give results for your business, not only are you coming just to get that advice and that you can apply it, but you're also getting exposure. You're also getting marketing. You're also being a platform where someone like Shagnik, a week ago, not many people outside, of course he already has his audience, but now by him just coming on and now having this discussion with us, he's been now exposed to more people. We've been able to make introduction. Other people here in Australia now know of Shagnik and their company that they didn't know of before. So that's exactly where this evolves into, is a structured offerings, but a way for companies to also get the marketing they actually need, and it can be a start. So we see this as coming in person, whether that's a workshop, sitting down, having live consultation where we can get content and we can be there. So that's the vision.
Absolutely. And you know why, it's just the most important aspect is both of us and those who would be participating. Marketing is fun. Of course, it has its numbers side to it, but there's a lot of fun side of which is insight, creativity, ideation, brainstorming. And many a times, the solution lies in the creative thinking, thinking out of the box. And, that's what the aim is. We would be doing that. And if you guys have a listeners audience, if you guys have a topic which you think we should cover, please feel free to talk about it. We are looking also at building a homepage for this, which will have all the feedback going on and so on and so forth. This is just the beginning, and all important and meaningful things, we will do it step by step. We are here for the long run. We are here for a while, right, Sujira? That's the idea. If marketing is something you're working on, struggling with, or simply curious about, please come to our space. We hope this becomes a space you keep coming back to. And
powerful stuff. So we do welcome you guys to come in, and we look forward to being able to serve and have these powerful conversations. We look forward to it. And Meraj, is there anything that you wanted to leave our amazing audience as we wrap up and introduce them to what we're doing?
Yeah, two things. One is the next episode is also going to be about the family business. We'll bring in another guest who's a practitioner of the second generation, and I think the third generation person is also, and we'll get the third generation also, and then perhaps that'll be an interesting conversation between the second and the third, and we can get them both. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm not going to reveal who they're going to be because that'll come as a surprise, but keep yourself tuned in. We'll be talking about that. And I think what we would like to say that this platform is about where marketing problems find direction and solutions, and that should be the takeaway. Have a great rest of the weekend. I think it's a Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening in Sydney, and Dubai, it's Saturday afternoon. India is also the same space. And feel free to write to us, give any feedback. Did you like it? Did you didn't like it? Criticism is welcome because that will help us become better, and appreciation will make us feel great about ourselves. So do both.
Yeah, thank you so much. We look forward to this, and again, the format of us doing it monthly, as a monthly occurrence, live on LinkedIn as we are now. Again, we understand the game, we understand marketing, we understand the ability to capture attention. So we look forward to continue to do this. And thanks, Meraj, from the first time we met to where we are now.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. It's amazing, Sujira, and glad that you reached out. I mean, it's all because of you. You reached out to me, and that's how we have traveled this journey. So somehow, I mean, I'm not much of a believer, but somehow there is some energy flowing somewhere which brings interesting people together, and I hope to have more interesting people in this particular platform. With that, I think we can say tata and see you next time around. Everyone, next month, there'll be more interesting stuff for you. Catch us. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Hey, what's wrong? Bro, I'm stressed out. I'm running my business. I've got to serve my customers, but I need more customers coming in. I can't keep relying on word of mouth. Why don't you just use ETS Rabasha Media? Who? Well, with AI now, what they do is they go in, get your perfect clients, bring them in front of you. So all I got to do is run my business and he brings me opportunities. Think about it. You speak to 3,000 of your ideal customers, convert 1% of that 3,000, that's 30 people. 30 people in a room with you, can you convert that? Of course I'll close them. I'm good at what I do. I just don't have time to be going and looking for my perfect client. Focus on what you love doing and let them bring you customers. When you win, they win, commission, cha-ching. Sujira Rabasha, huh? Yeah, Sujira Rabasha. Go and Google them, man. Come on, take it to the bank.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one.